Hello, my friends. Okay, we're back with another video, and today's frequently asked question isn't necessarily about how to write better or how to tell your story in a better way, but it's just like, help me get done with this, right? Feels like it's taking me forever. How do I write faster? Sometimes, there are reasons why this is called a process. This is a journey, right? But sometimes you are hoping to get this done by a particular date. Maybe it's a meaningful date, or if you have a traditional deal and you got deadlines coming up or whatever, or you just feel this urge like, I have to get this out, I have to get this done. But you may be struggling finding the time or finding the energy to put the effort into writing faster. And this isn't necessarily about speed, okay? So let me give you some insights and things to consider when you want to kind of sprint to the finish line, if you will. Now, I want to caution you that speed doesn't always equal quality, okay? And if you're just going for shitty first draft, that's fine. We can get it out. We can deal with it later. But if you feel like there's something going on where you're dawdling or you're not as connected to your project, here are some ways to get reconnected and to try to dedicate some increased time or energy to this project or both. So when you feel like you're falling behind, maybe there was a schedule that you mapped out, or you feel like you're losing focus, the most important thing you can do is write every day. Even if that truly only means 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 3 paragraphs or 10 sentences or whatever. Every single day you need to be with your book. The moment you release yourself from that daily commitment is the moment that other things in your life will fill that gap. I promise you. If you find 15 minutes or 30 minutes every day or less, right? But think of it, in a container. Like, where do I have 15, 20, 30 minutes or an hour? It doesn't necessarily matter how much, but it's that daily commitment. You will constantly feel connected with your story. And then during the day when you're not working on it, your brain will be thinking about things. So this is sort of a on-off project, if you will. I know we've talked about this a little bit in some comments, but I have like this thing where I give my brain an assignment and I'll be like, okay, I'm not working on this right now, or this one's stumping me. I want you to think about it. And I like give my brain this assignment and I go about my day. I go do the dishes, I do the laundry, I hang out with the kids, I whatever, do my stuff. And sometimes I get some clarity, sometimes I don't. My brain is just, it's not a machine, right? You're not a machine. But the point is, when I go back to the project, I'm connected, I'm energized, I'm there again. I'm not feeling like, where the heck did I leave off 2 weeks ago? So, number one, no matter what else you do, find time to do this regularly. If it's once every day for a couple minutes, that's fine. But if you can find an hour, maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's in the evening, wherever your brain feels the most activated. I do my best concentrating before 2 p.m. I don't know, 2 p.m. I just want to like shut down, take naps, eat chocolate, like go to bed, go binge watch Schitt's Creek, whatever it is, okay? My brain is just sort of like, I'm done. I kind of get a second wind towards the later part of the afternoon and then the evening, but I know I'm not doing my best concentrating then. I'm not doing my best focused work. So see if you have a similar pattern, if there is a time of the day where you can concentrate the most. But let's talk about the fact that you may be dealing with some things that you have time, but you're still feeling like you're struggling making progress. You're still feeling like, man, I'm just not getting anywhere. I should be able to write a chapter a day. I should be able to write 3 pages a day, whatever your mindset is. I want you to shift out of that and try to not put it into a container, but focus on just getting things out. It doesn't matter what those things are necessarily, but as long as you're continually getting something out and onto paper, that's fine. There could be 2 reasons why you're feeling like you're not making much progress. Number one, if you're not letting the writing lie and you're going back and you're futzing with it, like, oh, I don't know about this paragraph, or like maybe this sentence needs to be tweaked, or like, does this section really go here? If you haven't written your entire first draft manuscript, you shouldn't be futzing around, okay? No futzing. Futzing is for the revision phase. We are talking about, how do I get my first draft done? How do I write faster to get my first draft done? Or how do I feel like I'm making more progress? So no futzing around. You have to just let it lie. Know that you can always go back. Always go back. We will go back. Always. Every single time you write something, you're going to go back and revisit it, no matter what. Most of the time, you're going to revisit it many times. So don't worry about it. Say, look, I got you out. You're on the page. I'm moving forward. So that could be one reason why you feel like you're not making enough progress in the time you've set aside, because you're messing around with things you've already done, and you need to be dealing with what you haven't done. Number two, if you're feeling a little block, like there are sections that are really hard for you to write, emotionally difficult, ask yourself, what about those sections is making it very difficult? It might be that moment, that event in your story that's taking you back to a place that's really difficult, emotionally deep and hard to even try to revisit. I know there's some times in my life where I'm like, ugh, God, I don't even want to go back there. I just don't want to go back there. My brain is like not allowing it. There may be a couple ways you can kind of hack this system. One is I definitely want to encourage you to get, some therapeutic support if needed. If you're really struggling and you're feeling a strong emotional reaction, maybe one session with a therapist could clear that up, or one session with, I shouldn't even say session, but just chatting with a friend about it, that could give you some clarity. So take an assessment of like, am I right there? Am I there? Am I stuck because I really can't look back there because it's causing me some emotional turmoil that's not good for my mental health? We have to take care of ourselves. So step away from the project if that's the case, or move to a different part of the project if that's the case. But number two, if it's a hard scene to write because it's complicated, complex, you aren't sure exactly how to describe it, just step away. Like if you're typing it out on the computer, maybe step away and go to the paper, right? And just talk about it, like journal it. Just pretend you're talking to a friend, and just write like, I'm really struggling with this section. I don't know how to describe this, or my memory is really hazy and I'm not sure how to clarify things. And just journal and get out your thoughts, no matter what they are, whether they belong in the book or not. You could also try that technique with just like calling up a friend or a family member and just talking to them about that, and just let them know you need to verbally process this. Consider recording that. You can go back to listening to it later, and you might glean some things you didn't realize you said. So this is all work on the book. So I want you to feel like you're still making progress, but what you're trying to do is bust through some breaks, some blocks, some walls that you're coming up against. You can also reach out to me. I can absolutely give you a strategy session. We can, really work on some things. That sometimes is really, really helpful to get the momentum back. But I also want to give you some like non-hiring options here. So you could be just not spending enough time on it. You could be blocked, even though you are spending enough time on it. You feel like you're not making progress. Maybe you're distracted in dealing with what's not, what's already written. You could be writing at a slower pace because you are way too stressed about how it's coming out. Like, what word did I just use? Did that sound stupid? Do I sound like I'm a good writer? And you're judging it immediately as it appears on the page. And so a paragraph is taking you 45 minutes because you keep going over it and rewriting it and playing with it and molding it. I want you to take a step back and just know, again, that you're going to revisit that paragraph multiple times in the future. And if you hire no one else, please hire a line editor. They will help you tighten up those words, okay? So don't worry about that. You need a judgment-free, get it out of your head. And sometimes for me, That just means picking up my phone recorder and just like spewing words out and saying, this is the paragraph, this is the section, this is the chapter I'm writing about, and this is really what I want to say. I like verbally process things much better than I do on paper sometimes. It's sometimes the other way, but whatever you feel your strong point is when you try to figure out what's going on, use that method. Again, journal it out or whatever, but try not to judge how it's coming out. Let it come out crappy. Let it come out sounding like you're a total amateur or like you have no idea how to write English. That's okay. We all sound like that when we write. So we have to go back and make it sound pretty, but that's later. Okay? So no matter what you do, commit to it daily. No judgments. Do not go back and get distracted by what you already wrote. And then number 4, if those things feel like they're really not your problem, I should say number 5, because really the 4th one is like if you're blocked, you need to kind of figure out how to get around that. If you feel like you got a handle on that, but you're still not making progress, what you need to make sure you're doing is following a plan. If you do not have your story outlined, if you don't know what your major scenes are and your minor scenes are, I need you to go back to the foundation videos and try to get that mapped out, okay? You need to be following some type of plan so that you have kind of a clear path ahead, or you're going to be sort of all over the place, feeling like I'm not getting this done, but really you have like 100,000 words sitting there and it doesn't look like a book. It's in no particular order, and you feel like you have so much more to do because you're not seeing the plan, right? You're not seeing the path forward. So make sure you have your book structured and organized. If you're feeling like you're losing some progress or you're not making enough progress, make sure that you have a detailed outline. Write out a little blurb for each scene. This is what I want to talk about here. This is what I want to talk about here. This is what I want to talk about here. And have yourself a little guide or a map or whatever you want to call it, where you're like, check, 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 I'm done. And give yourself assignments. This is what scene I'm going to write today. This is what scene I'm going to write tomorrow. And you can just start following along. That helps you stay focused and not mess with things. That also helps you feel like you're accomplishing something by checking things off a list. I like to check things off a list, so I can relate to how that might feel motivating. You can also take it really visual. If you're more of a visual learner or a visual artist, if you will, like someone who really needs to see things before they create it, or see things visually before you can kind of bring it down to the paper and in words. So maybe you want to just step back and say like, look, I need to draw out my structure. Am I using the W or the E or whatever, right? And you start with sticky notes and you get colorful. That can really help clarify the path forward. Sometimes you're feeling stuck or you're feeling slowed down, bogged down because you're in a part of your book that is misaligned. It's not working well because it's not structured appropriately. And you don't always see that until you get to that point. So you may have thought, you figured out the structure that you like. And sometimes you just feel like you're getting stuck in the mud here a little bit. Like, okay, this isn't working. So check in. Why isn't it working? Is it the structure? Is it the organization? Do you have a plan? Here's another tip that you can try to use to break down to help you write faster, which is another way of saying just make progress each day so that your goal becomes closer and closer to being finished, being met. Some of you may have heard of NaNoWriMo. It's in November. Fiction writers mainly, but also nonfiction writers and memoirists get together and they like challenge each other and they say, okay, I'm going to write 50,000 words this month or whatever it is. The way that's done typically is they work backwards and they say, well, I have 30 days and I want to write 50,000 words, and that's X amount of words a day, like 2,000 words a day or whatever, less than that. But you get my basic math, right? So give yourself a deadline if you don't already have one, and just say, okay, by May 1st, I want to have 80,000 words done. I have 45 right now. I need 35 more, and do the math. How many days do you have? Okay, I need to write 500 words a day or 1,000 words a day. Some days you may sit down and you write 200, and that's okay. That's all you got. Some days you sit down and you write 3,500. That was a good day. I'm gonna propose that a good day is any day you get writing done. But what you can do is you can structure this out. Maybe you pull up a spreadsheet, get out some graphing paper, whatever you want, and figure out how to map it out. So if your goal is 1,000 words a day and one day you got 800, but one day you got 1,200, well, you're on track, right? So it doesn't need to be exact every day. You don't need to feel like a failure if, oh my gosh, my goal was 1,000 and all I got was 300, because you're going to have good days and bad days and medium days and all the other flavor of days, okay? But when you give yourself a number to shoot for, instead of like, I got to write this scene or this chapter, you're thinking maybe too big, just break it down. 1 page a day, 100 words or whatever, break it down. Then you will start seeing the numbers add up and it will feel like you are moving faster, even if you may be moving at the same clip as before. But when you measure something, it usually gets done, you usually stick to it, and you usually feel like you're going faster, and most of the time you actually do. So those are some tips that I give people when they're going like, I need to get this done. How do I stay on track? Because and really it varies for each person what your personal style is, where you're at with your story, and what your goal is. If you came at me and said, I want to write an 80,000 word memoir in 30 days, I would say good luck to you. I hope you have nothing else to do for 30 days, because that is a lot of heavy work. Yes, it's time, but it's also emotional work, brain work, focus work. Our brains can only handle so much. So if you try to set aside 4 hours a day, that may be too much for you. You just need to kind of feel into it. If you have the luxury of time, utilize it, but maybe you break it up. So think about how you can kind of get creative with this. But above all, number one, no matter what else you do, make time to do this every day. Make time to touch your book every single day. 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you can manage. Touch your book every day until it's done, so it stays fresh and top of mind, and you don't let anything else fill that gap, because it will. The universe abhors a vacuum. It is true. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. It might feel like I've already talked about some of these things, because we did talk about some healthy, smart writing habits. But I think it's worth putting into context how these techniques can help you make more progress so you can hit a goal. If you are coming up to the finish line, I want you to push it and get through it, and then breathe a deep breath, take a deep breath, congratulate yourself on your first draft, and then you can go do all the futzing around and fiddle-faddling and all of the other words that mean messing with your words that you already wrote. Okay, so come back for my next video. We're going to talk about something fun. Okay, that's all I can give you right now. See you there.